our guest in the studio is normally when you introduce people, you have to say they're a blah, 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 but you're just Tony Cascarino. So then everybody knows who you are. Really.
Thank you for that build-up.
Yes. Yeah, that wasn't that great, really, come to think of it. No, but it's like everybody knows who you are. So it's pointless, really. Unless I said brain surgeon Tony Cascarino, that would puzzle people. They go, he's got another career as well.
Maybe brain surgery. I sometimes need.
And tell us about playing cards.
Yes.
How long have you been doing that for?
12 years. 12 years. When I gave up playing football in France, I retired because of the French system. Some people will find this amazing, but you could claim unemployment benefit if you played in France, and it was related to the platform of your wages. So I basically had a year and a half off in Paris, and I didn't know what to do. I was doing a Roy Keane, walking the dogs, and loved cards and wanted to play, and I thought, I'll go and learn. So I went and learned and lost a load of money learning to play. But I'd always had the backup of the unemployment system.
That's a nice one. How do you go? Well, I mean, as you say, you had played before, but I suppose you were playing at a different level.
Absolutely.
Did you just learn by your mistakes? Or
yeah, well, of course. If you don't learn by your mistakes, you'll go nowhere in life. And I took it very seriously, and I played against certain players, and then I realised that they kept winning and I kept losing. And as a penalty, I lived about 20 minutes from the casino, and if I took a cab, it took me 2 minutes. So if I won, I could have a cab. That was my present.
Yeah.
And if I lost, I had to walk. Well, on a cold night, sometimes at 5 o'clock in the morning, rain and wind and everything, it was a pretty hard punishment to walk. So I kept walking. And I kept thinking, I want to get a cab. And when I was walking home, like you do, when you're walking and thinking, you have a lot of this is getting a bit regular. I keep walking, so I'm obviously not doing things right. And gradually, over sort of 6-9 months, I learned how to play a far more higher level. And by the end, I was taking more cabs than walking. So there was my answer.
Well, that's good. And what did you learn? What were the initial weaknesses in your game that you had to work on?
The mathematics.
Yeah.
I would play against the odds. So, if you're playing against the odds, you're going to be losing more often. So I played the wrong... I considered at the time that, the percentage, which is huge in cards, that you must play the percentage play, and you must know the relatively odds of a chance of you hitting, say, a particular card, and then relate that to money that's in the pot. So I was playing the game always on the wrong side of the odds, and that's why I was losing more often than not.
And in practical terms, you're thinking there are 3 aces out. There's a fourth one. The chances of that are X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and relate that to the amount of money that's in the pot, plus the money that can be won with if you hit this card and if you make a bet and the cumulative odds. So it's very, it's very mathematics. That's the greatest players and the kids that are online and play the game to a very high level. They know absolutely every possible chance, and the maths are relating to the possibility of them winning. So they know it, and they then do it in seconds. They can just work it out in seconds. So they brought on the game a lot more.
And the people you were playing against, were they mostly professionals?
There were guys there was one particular guy I used to, his name was called the Cockroach.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Nice name. And he was a guy that hadn't worked for 20 years. And I could never understand why he won so often. And then he started giving me lessons, and we were doing it privately, and worked really hard on my game with him. And I don't think he's ever had a job because, he knew, look, he was very good at the job. I mean, you can't say to everyone, no one could, if you teach them every day, could they play the level he played? He had a talent for the game and he had a real good eye for the game. So I learnt from him, and it was good. It was good fun because he taught me so much about the game itself, because there's so many ways of winning that people wouldn't relate to. They wouldn't understand, your position on the table. It was an advantage. If someone acted before you, you could control the pot because of the bet sizes and the way you bet. And so it was interesting stuff. But I did learn. But I did learn the hard way by losing.
After you kind of served your time in Paris, did you? Because there is a circuit around Europe where people play on. Have you played on that?
EPT.
Yeah.
European Tour. Yeah, I've played quite a number of events. I don't play events so much now. Not quite. I have a big media life, and I enjoy that. I love my football, my punditry, and being involved. And I've never put cards before, or on the odd occasion before my media work. But I try to avoid it, because if you cross the two, it just doesn't work because cards is tiring and there's late hours. Middle of the night. I'll be often getting home at 4 or 5 in the morning, and you can't do both.
That's the thing about people who play cards at that level. We're not talking about a whist drive down in the local hall. That it's 50% of it is endurance.
Yes.
That at 3 or 4 in the morning you're getting tired and cranky, and that's when you make the mistake. That's when you go all in at the wrong time, and then you're done.
Well, I remember when I first went to Vegas, I realised after being there a few days that I had to go to bed early, around 7 o'clock at night, to wake up at 4 in the morning to play the tourists and play the guys that have been drinking all night.
Yeah.
So I would get up at 4 in the morning, go and play cards and play to about 9, 10 o'clock, and then I would chill out. But my day was built on 8 o'clock at night, going ready to go to bed. And someone would say, "Oh, you're boring." I'd say, "But that's the time I can make my money." There's people who have been out socialising who come to the tables after being to a club. They're who I want to play against.
Yeah.
Who are not playing the game not only with the maths of what I talked about,
but
also not in a very good state of mind to be playing cards.
The people who play on the European tour. There seem to be a lot of characters there, and they're all a bit odd. They're kind of a lot of them are people who kind of wouldn't fit into normal society anyway.
You
they're
mean
kind of
degenerates?
No, just a kind of a lot of them kind of strike me as that I've seen on the telly, like a kind of mad genius type people.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Andy Black, who's probably the most famous one. Andy's a real off the wall type of character. I think he went 2 years in Tibet, didn't he? And then lived as a monk, and but they don't see their money as money. They see it as a number. Yeah. And they try to keep accumulating the number, and they're brave as hell. These guys would put their literally life savings on the line if they had to. They are fearless. And that is very much typical of the modern day, very successful. Look, there are also sad stories where guys have lost. Let's put it in perspective. There are winners and losers. But the very best guys are, like you said, some of them are real geniuses. Yeah.
How did people, when you started then turning up at some of these games, how did they react to you?
Oh, typical immediately, a typical footballer.
Yeah.
Money, ain't got a clue what he was doing. And then you've got to earn your respect. You've got to then play, and then they think, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to play.
How do you know when you've earned the respect, other than walking away with their cash?
When they don't play against you too often. When you're at the table and they're not trying to get you and they're not trying to play against you, they know that you can really play the game. They then won't want to take you on so easy, so their bluffing becomes a little bit more difficult because you might sense that where you are in a hand, So it took a long time, but I know now, if I play against a guy, and if he's from whatever walk of life, and I suddenly realise, I think, he's a player, he knows what he's doing, he really knows how to play this game, so I have to be careful, because he could wipe me out here, So you get that sense, you feel that.
That's in itself a lesson. If you're the guy at the table people are taking on, you're the guy who's going to lose.
Well, some guys can't be out of a pot. They want to play every pot.
Yeah.
So then, eventually the numbers, you'll get caught.
A few people texting in things to ask you. Andrew wants to know, people, this is just a comment. People do the same when online poker. The best money I've made online is after midnight when trolleyed people come online after the pub. Total idiots. Another texter says, I always failed maths. My brain is bleeding through my ears listening to your guest explain card counting and odds. I can only count my toes. You do have to be good at maths, though, I would assume.
Of course you do.
Yeah,
you need it, especially when you get divorced. You've got to count how much.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Well, it's zero. David Meath wonders, does Tony play online? I always wondered how safe that was. Am I playing against a computer with fixed results, or am I playing for real? What does Tony think?
Play for a bit of fun. Enjoy it. You've got to learn it. It's like everything. I don't have time. I'm not a great fan of just sitting in front and playing cards on a computer all day, but some people have. But just try and enjoy it. That's what it's for. Yeah. Enjoyment. And don't go too heavy, There are some very, very good players online. And, if you don't know what you're doing, they'll take you to the cleaners. So, enjoy it.
Yes, you do have to be a little bit wary.
Yeah.
Ask Tony, when is he going to buy me my beer back? I met him in the bar on a train from Paris to Strasbourg in 1998. But he said he'd no francs in him, only sterling, so I had to buy all the booze. There's no name attached to that.
I was going to say.
So, of course, you'd remember that.
No idea.
You probably do get a lot of that, must be said. You're here, this visit to Ireland is because you're a brand ambassador for Ladbrokes. What does that mean?
Well, I represent Ladbrokes and we had a function at Punches Town yesterday. We had a really great day. A brand ambassador is really meet people, greet them, and just enjoy the experience of being part of a fantastic festival. And I've been now, it's my second year. We've done many events, not just horse racing. Sometimes go to football matches. We'll have competitions via Ladbrokes to, people to go over to England, meet up, and then they become a journalist for the day, write an article about, to win the competition about being at a football match. And, it's been good fun. A really lucky position to be in, and it will continue for a while. We've got the World Cup next year.
Yeah.
What a great thing to look forward to. Hopefully we'll be there.
That's a great job, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm lucky, and hey, if you enjoy doing what you're doing, there's nothing better, is there?
How much, in terms of the punditry, how much of your time does that take up?
Quite a lot. I work for obviously the Times, Ladbrokes, the Racing Post, the Sun in Ireland, just many times, sometimes Sky.
And does that require a lot of homework?
Yeah, of course. You don't do your homework, you're going to get found out. People are going to laugh at what you're saying, like they're probably laughing now. If you don't do your homework in life, if you don't prepare to put something in, you can't last long. So I watch maybe 10 football matches a week. Now that is a lot of sometimes television games, but I'll watch games. I watch games all the time. I watch 4 or 5 games over the weekend. I might watch Spanish football. So I'm continually watching football matches.
Because an awful lot of players have gone into the punditry business and not necessarily, it doesn't always sit that well with them.
No, they might not enjoy it. And they might see it as easy money, but it's not. It becomes much harder because you've got to work at it. You've got to go. Anybody I know in life who's been successful at what they do is there's the amount of effort they put into what they're doing. And punditry is no different. It's not just watching a football game. You've got to know all the players you're talking about. You've got to know stuff from before, and then you've got to try and predict what's happening. And you've got to be a manager. You've got to be a coach. You've got to talk sense, because people are watching or listening to you are probably going, what the hell is he going on about? So you've got to put work in.
Yeah, and so, you would have an understanding, obviously, but is there a danger that you might be a bit too sympathetic sometimes?
Try not to be. I just
people. Well, because
you're not in Ireland, are you?
We did mention
in Ireland. It's certainly not sympathetic. I think there's a real honest view.
Yeah,
that is the pride of. You go to England. There's a far more middle of the road opinion.
Yeah,
that in Ireland you would not get away with. People are just, oh, come on. It's just like that. And it feels a lot more honest in Ireland. You feel like there's people prepared to be a bit more braver. In England, there's certain people who go on television and radio, will say things, but they've got an attachment to a football club.
Yeah.
I'm lucky not in that position.
Yeah.
I don't have an attachment. I can be honest. I don't, there's players who've got their mates who are at football clubs, whether it's a Liverpool or Man United, they've just finished playing their career, and they're always worried about what they might say. You've always had certain individuals that will just be frank and as honest as the day's long. I think.
Well, Roy Keane will be, but does that not go down that well in Britain?
Well, I don't. Roy is new to the punditry world. It's only in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously was a manager just prior to that, and he openly admitted that the one of his worst faults was that he, being a pundit, and now he is one. But I think it's made him see a little bit different. It's changed his idea slightly, because I read an article today about Roy, and I think he sees things a little bit differently from a punditry view.
What way do you think it's different?
Well, he had the hard ride, didn't he? Look, he's got he was a manager, and Roy is a person that hates to foul, and he would have felt that he'd done things wrong, and he did do things wrong, but he wants one more chance. He wants one more shot at being a manager. I think that's pretty obvious to everybody involved, that he wants another go. I think he should get another chance at being a manager, but he's got to learn from his mistakes, dealing with people, because Roy's found that very, very difficult. And you look at all managers, whether it's Klopp, Borussia Dortmund, Sir Alex Ferguson, Mourinho, their team is a bit of a reflection of them, and their team wants to, love their manager as well. And I think all the best teams have that response to a manager, and I think that's the one obstacle. I want to see Roy have another go, purely because I think he would have learnt a lot the 2 years that he's been out away from football.
He needs to learn to make himself more lovable.
Well, no, look, he can't be what you're not.
Yeah.
I think he's just got to learn that certain people, you've got to get them to play well for you. You've got to get them to overachieve. So how are you going to do that? If you're ranting at them and having a go and being brutally honest, it might not work for you in a dressing room. So sometimes you have to mislead them slightly and be a little bit more warming to them, which I think he's found very hard, because that's not Roy's natural instinct to be like that. But Fergie done that, and Fergie's as ruthless as they come. But I think also sometimes you've got to be a little bit of a bluffer, and I think Roy's found that really tricky to do.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of charm there.
Well, you've got to do that because you've got to get them to play for you. If you hammered somebody and sent them to go and play the reserves and not had anything to do with them for 6 weeks and just left them to rot with they're not going to really come back and want to play for you too easily, are they? They might not go that extra mile, and I think that's the thing. I think he would have learnt that, and I'd still like to see him have another chance to prove that he can, because he was. I mean, we've been blessed. We talk about players, and England have had Gascoigne and Hoddle. We've had, in my lifetime of playing for Ireland, we had Liam Brady, Ronnie Whelan, Roy Keane, Andy Townsend, Paul McGrath. Have all played midfield. Any of them would have walked into an England team. Yeah. Any of them 5. We haven't got one of them at the moment. We haven't got a talented midfielder that would be in any side in the world. And yet, over my period of playing for Ireland, I think we had at least 5 of them that were as good as anything.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. Do you think he'll get a chance to manage again?
It's very tough because, like in everything in life, people speak and then it goes from one person to the next. If you tell one person at a football club something today, 12 other people will know by tomorrow. Yes. And it sort of spread. Roy's become a bit untouchable at the moment in football. You'd have felt the Nottingham Forest job when it came up. You'd have felt if anyone could have got it, and from his history of being at the football club, that could have been Roy, and it never happened. It's a disappointing thing for him because I do think he feels he's got something. He's a winner. He's a total born winner, and maybe that that total focus on being a winner has cost him dearly because his expectations of people they've not lived up to. Yeah,
so there's to a certain extent he kind of maybe needs to play the game a wee bit more. Kiss a bit of ass.
You got to learn in life. Yeah. You make mistakes. We touched on the conversation about early days, and things of my poker. You got to learn. If you don't learn, you can't move forward.
Management ambitions?
No, too hard. I want an easier life, enjoyable life. I love watching football. I love doing my work, and like I say, I've had a great time. What can I do with Ladbrokes this week? This week when I've gone down to Punchestown, had a couple of winners, had a few jars, bumped into Quinny, which was really nice. See Big Niall. I don't see him too often, but when I do, end up having a pint together. Good fun. And, I'm lucky.
In football, do you keep in contact with many people? Or is it does everybody kind of accept that people move around a lot?
No, you have a lot of acquaintances.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, I do keep in touch with quite a number. I mean, Andy Townsend's a big pal. Teddy Sheringham, obviously, from my Millwall days and many other reasons. His missus is having a baby today, by the way.
Oh, right.
So he's going to be a dad again today. I keep in touch with a lot of the Irish boys. I bump into them, and it's difficult. You move around in football. I went and played in France. I went and played in Glasgow. I went and played in Birmingham, and then I'm in London. So all these players are going all over the country, and you don't tend to be picking up the phone that often to them.
No, I suppose that goes with the game.
Yeah.
Tony, lovely to meet you. Thanks very much for coming into us.